Go.
Boys, look who it is!
Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Jim as always, and oh man, the pressure. Yeah, Blevins over there is hanging out as well, and it's a big deal. We can't remember how to point, or at least I still can't.
I still
It's pretty difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey Maker, this is a rerun. Oh wait, no.
So
I'm gonna say that at the beginning of every episode now, just to mess with it.
so we've been found out for, I don't know, since episode 6. I haven't changed the intro screen to have a different episode number. So to bask in my failure, we've decided to leave it there for a while, so that way it really bothers me. But yeah, so anyways, a lot has happened this week as we have gotten a new wing of Black Rock Mountain, the last wing of Black Rock Mountain. Very, very disappointing. As new stuff is always the most fun thing that can happen with a game like this.
That's true.
Let me just get my light turned on there and get that over with. Yeah, so we're going to be recapping the whole instance. We are going to spend a little time specifically talking about last week's cards, however, because we made some like top 5 lists or just lists of some of the bigger surprises from BlackRock, as well as some of the letdowns. Just and a list of just the best cards and a list of the worst cards.
Yeah.
So cards we missed completely on, like our analysis of them was wrong, or cards that we completely nailed. Those are actually what the last 2 lists are.
The winners and losers, and we're the losers.
Yeah. Then we'll talk about the things we just completely screwed up. So that'll be a good time. You guys can feel free to laugh at us about that. Let's see. So yeah, let's just move straight. Oh, John, actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Still Undefeated. Where'd you go to in the rankings after that win, buddy?
I didn't even go up it. I'm like there's so many people in this tournament. It's all on like weird tiebreakers. So I'm like in the top 16 in the world and in the U.S. Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm tied for first is basically what it was down to. I got up really high and I got a screen cap of like my highest point, but like it's all like I'm arbitrarily high on the standings right now.
Yeah, one of those awkward situations where you like win 3-0 and then go drop down a little bit.
Right. Although I actually didn't 3-0 this week. It was the first week that I went to game 5 and it was really tight. This is the closest game.
Oh, okay.
So the closest match that I played.
That definitely makes sense with all the people that are bound to be in that event. But either way, still undefeated, so still very well on track here for a nice finish.
I think I've got 2 weeks of win and ends for playoffs probably.
Okay.
If I win one of the next 2 weeks, I'm probably in the playoffs.
Sweet.
Which would be sweet.
Yeah, is that going to be streamed? So you're going to be like on a...
Imagine that it would be streamed. Yeah. That would be cool if it was streamed.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to that, especially just for the insider insight to how all that goes down from the player perspective. I'm sure.
Would be kinda cool.
I want to hear about it, so I'm sure the listeners do as well.
Yeah.
All right, so this week in Black Rock Mountain, of course, we got a pretty solid collection of cards here. Definitely not one of those softer wings.
Yeah, it's not the best, not the worst.
Right. The first card here was a card I was fairly big on, and I think so far it's struggled to find its true place. Not giving up on it, but it's still a very new card. And it's Volcanic Drake for 6 mana. It's a 6/4 dragon that costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. Not an uncommon effect for this set by any means to get cheaper based on how many creatures have died. But as we've seen, John, a little bit, it doesn't get played on your opponent's turn, so it's definitely a little tricky.
Yeah, I was streaming yesterday, and I had him in my zoo deck, and I was just a click behind at every moment, and like you said it on the stream too. It's like, dude, Blevins, you forgot to play your Volcanic Drakes and end a turn for 0 mana. I'm like, yeah, your opponent can just be proactive about it, kill all your stuff, and then what have you got? You've got nothing.
Yeah, can't flash it in on the end step.
Right. It's not It just doesn't work out the way you really want it to, unless your opponent plays really poorly into it, which can happen, um, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck with some stinkers in your hand.
So far from what I've seen, it's like it's kind of it might be a win more card, and if you're not familiar with that term, it's something we might discuss more in the future. But basically, it's something that like it feels great when you play it, and it seems like it's working really well. But in reality, it's just taking a board state that you're already going to win the game from and just making the numbers a little flashier, or what I mean,
Right.
not really adding anything to the deck, just maybe
Getting that 12 overkill instead of just winning exactly. Like,
Right.
It doesn't actually matter.
Right, it is in fact irrelevant no matter how good it feels. So it will have to keep an eye on it. I'm not going to call it a miss yet, or say it's not what I thought it was, because it's possible it's just tricky that it has to be in a specific deck or something like that. It's going to find a home. I still feel like. I know I've seen you play with it a little bit, John. So talk to me about your experiences.
Yeah, like I said, it didn't really work out as well as I wanted it to in the Zoo deck. It did work out a little bit better in the aggressive Paladin deck that I was playing it in, but it still faced the same problems of I either have a board built up, and if I have my board built up, I can trade into their board and get a very cheap 6/4. And sometimes you have those turns where it might not be a win more, where you actually get to clear off their board. And if you didn't have this, maybe you just have no play. You instead get to play a 6/4 and put some pressure on. In those cases, specifically in Paladin, it worked out a lot. I think that there's still room for a Warlock style deck that's running a bunch of board sweeps. Hellfires, Shadow Flame, maybe. You heard it here first. Maybe a Twisting Nether. You play the Twisting Nether, wipe the board, and you get to drop a free Volcanic Drake. The face. Maybe Twisting Nether's pushing it a little bit, but that style of maybe not necessarily working on board control, because sometimes your opponent it's too. The board control element might be in your opponent's hand too much. But if you're playing proactive sweepers like Hellfire or Shadow Flame or Demon Wrath, and then you get to play a Drake after wiping their board and possibly some of your guys, then maybe that's a shell that we could see in the future, but we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, and definitely in part because just the Zoo deck is so strong right now that people are just not really looking to, you don't. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they're not really looking to make huge sweeping changes to their Zoo deck. So maybe down the road, Zoo will get pushed out of the metagame a little bit, and it'll allow people to start to experiment more with the archetype.
Right, and I think this is probably a larger discussion, but I'll just briefly say it. There's not really as much of an incentive for people to innovate new decks like there is in Magic the Gathering. In Magic the Gathering, you're playing very large-scale one-day events, or maybe 2 days, like Grand Prix, for instance. If you innovate the perfect deck for a Grand Prix, you play that, you win the Grand Prix, you win a bunch of money, you qualify for the Pro Tour, etc., etc. In Hearthstone, playing a well-known and more consistent deck is much better in a league setting, in a even just in a one match setting. Because you get to play, between 3 and I guess 9 decks in some tournaments. So you want to play. Most of your decks want to be consistent so that you can get the necessary number of wins to win a match. You don't necessarily want to have that weird offshoot, silver bullet deck. You don't necessarily want to brew that to win your league match against Life Coach. Because that's just not how Hearthstone tournaments are set up to be played, with the multiple decks and the just getting rewarded for being consistent is much more than there is in Magic the Gathering. So there hasn't really been any incentive, long story short, for people to brew this type of weird Volcanic Drake sweeper deck, even if it is possible. No one has really been incentivized to brew it yet.
Yeah, and it'll be it'll be interesting to see too, because Hearthstone has a Grand Prix coming up. So it'll be interesting to see if
like somewhere that's not drivable, right?
Yeah, like Switzerland. Yeah.
Swimmable.
Maybe not even for Michael Phelps. So I would just scrap that. But yeah, so we'll have to see. I'm really curious to see if some kind of brewy, techie deck comes out of that tournament for exactly the reason. I remember when SCG Buffalo happened, and the guy came with that Elfwave deck. It was just strange. It just did crazy things, and I was like following him around the room after I scrubbed out, and just like, what? How's he doing? And I paid attention to what he did the next couple weeks, and he went to the next SCG event and was on the stream, and I was like watching it and not necessarily rooting for him because he wasn't the coolest person in the world. Like, he was really kind of a jerk. Not that I even talked to him. I just like overheard him with other people. I don't remember his name, but he wasn't a local guy. He traveled in. He was one of the grinders or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, the next card here is Blackwing Corruptor. It's a 5-mana 5/4 with Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage. Definitely an interesting card. Draws the obvious comparison to Fire Elemental, because it does, if you're holding a dragon, damn near the same thing, for 1 less mana, for 1 less of each stat as well. So, John, I have a feeling you've seen this card a little more than me because of a conversation we're going to have a little bit later on. But I have seen this one a little bit, and he's definitely been effective. I don't know that I want to be in the strategy where you're, really probably going to have a dragon in your hand. But he's, on his own, a very strong card if you get to use the ability.
Yeah, that you're exactly right. If you get to use that ability, it is a very, very good card. Potentially game-breaking tempo swings with this guy, just like a Fire Elemental would be, but it's a turn earlier even. The problem I've seen is I saw Kibler running it, and it was a situation where if he had a dragon in his hand, he just wins the game, not close, because he has 2 Blackwing Corruptors and just completely destroys, takes over the game. But instead, he doesn't have a dragon. He's forced to play just a 5/4 for 5, which is not the worst, but in the game that he was playing, it was pretty bad. And then he didn't draw a dragon the second one, or the next turn, so his second 5/4 for 5 was not good enough. The saving grace for this card is, like I said, 5/4 for 5 mana is not the worst card in the world. You're not going to play it on its own, sadly. But if you have the dragon, it's just phenomenal. The problem with the card is that we're not, we've had the whole set out for 1 week. We've had, dragon strategies for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe not even, maybe only 2 weeks. But people have been trying basically nonstop since Dragon Consort came out to make a Dragon Paladin and other types of dragon decks viable, and it's really just not panned out yet. I mean, it's only been a couple weeks, but so far, it's really just been failing. It just doesn't seem like jamming all those dragons to get the added value of the if you're holding a dragon effect has been worth it over the mainstays like the Muster for Battles and Quartermasters and other things that you would be cutting from your decks to play the dragons. It just doesn't seem like it's been worth it yet.
Yeah, and I'm not ready to say that I feel like the Dragon Paladin deck has been a mild success, I would say. Like, it's had some success. And the reason is that the ones that are successful and doing well, I feel like aren't reaching for these corruptors. They're not reaching for the crazy, greedy cards. They're playing Consort, Azure Drake, Ysera, and that's it.
Right, that's the most.
Right. Yeah. Often as not, they're not playing the Azure Drake either. You know what I mean? They're really just focusing on the value that Chaining Consorts has. And, at the end of it, you also get this really cheap Ysera that lets you, equality on the same turn to clear their board with your 1/1s or something.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been definitely interesting, but I'm just not super into Paladin right now. I feel like it's kind of an average deck at best, and it's not one I have a natural affinity for, so I'm not pushing it.
Hyped, or the Tempo Storm, Meta Recall, or whatever they call it, Meta Snapshot, put Paladin at the bottom of the literal bottom of the list.
Oh wow.
That's just one person's opinion based on some like laddering stuff. So I don't know exactly how scientific their methods are, but nonetheless, it's at the bottom. But I also think that the Paladin deck's decline is not only because people are running a bunch of throwing a bunch of extraneous dragons in the deck, but is also because of the best deck in the format. And we'll definitely be talking about that in a little bit with our lists. But everyone, get in here!
Yeah, there's a lot of cards in that list too. By the way, we're not going to have huge discussions as we go through the list because a lot of times the lists have the same card that was on the last one and what have you. So just to kind of give you an idea, those conversations will be a little brief. But the next card on our list here is a dragon again. 6 mana, 6/6 Battlecry. If your opponent has 15 or less health, gain +3/+3. He is who we thought he was, and that's nothing.
Yeah, good in arena, not even a consideration for constructed.
Yeah.
Next.
All right, so 4 mana Dragonkin Sorcerer is a 4 mana 3/5 dragon. Whenever you target this minion with a spell, gain +1/+1. Have you seen this once in Constructed, John?
I've seen people try to play it in Constructed in priest decks. I still don't know why people are playing this and not trying like questing adventurer. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Long story short, it hadn't seen any play and probably won't.
Yeah, I've similar to you. I've seen a couple decks try it. They're the decks that I've seen playing the crazy like Blackwing Corruptors and things like that.
Right.
And they're just like trying to force too many things to happen, like to have all the insane dragon synergies, plus all these awkward creature pumps. Since Priest is the only deck that has any good ones, and Dragon Priest is a real thing. We're going to talk about the Play It Cool event, but I mean it's what Reynad raced with in that event, and he got to like rank 8 in 24 hours with owning nothing. We'll get into the details of that event later, because it was super cool and I was like crazy into it. But
I wish I didn't work that day. I also watched it.
Yeah, I wish I didn't oversleep on Saturday and miss most of the second day. But nonetheless, also here the Paladin card we got before we talk about the legendary Solemn Vigil. 5 mana, draw 2 cards. Costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. So far, my analysis of this card is Paladin players are too chicken to try it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some people say that Paladin doesn't need the card draw, which I'm not enough of an expert to know whether or not that's true. I just don't think we've given Solemn Vigil and Volcanic Drake to an extent. We haven't given them enough time to really find their home.
Right.
Their numbers, their deck, etc. I think that we're going to see more of those guys.
Yeah, there's been like 4 or 5 times since this card's come out where I sat down to build this control Paladin deck, that went old school and played like the Wild Pyros with the Equalities as well as the Consecrates. It went really heavy on the control. Like I'm even like in my head playing, what is it, the Kodo that kills a 2 or less guy. Kodo. Yeah, and like nice. And throw a humility in there because why not? So really going that throwback Paladin control deck, but starting to add in the Volcanic Drakes and the Solemn Vigils, since that deck was just like heal your face, and sweep the board. And I feel like if you went and sweep the board, also draw 4 cards, and here's 12 power, that's a ridiculous turn. And obviously, that's late in the game, but that deck was like the king of control decks. That's what it did, was it countered Priest and it countered Warrior, and I think it has the ability to move into the late game and get that job done.
Yeah, once again, our bearded friend is kind of keeping that style of deck out of the meta right now.
Yes, that is definitely true. Although if you had the extra board sweeps, all you need is spell power for Consecrate to clear all the Grim Patrons.
True. That is true. If you play the spell power works, but it doesn't work with Wild Pyro, sadly.
Right. That's asking for trouble. And Nefarian here is a 9 mana 8/8 dragon with a battle cry for add 2 random spells to your hand from your opponent's class. So one thing we completely missed on in our analysis of it, and is just how cool the animation was going to be. obviously we had no idea what the animation was going to be, but it is really cool. If you haven't gotten a chance to see it, I almost don't want to spoil it, so feel free to shut it off and just go play with the card, or mute us for a second. But you see like a shadow of him flying over the battlefield, and it's just a really neat effect. I don't know, I just like the feel of it.
Yeah, I love when they put that little extra pizzazz.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, have you seen what's that Mimiron's head? Have you seen that animation?
I don't. I mean, I
What
know
it
I
makes
have
from?
at least once, but I don't remember it.
So it used to be like all right, then they updated it.
Oh.
It's worth it.
Oh.
Think about what the coolest possible thing it could be, then multiply that by about 5. That's what it is.
Oh man. I know what we're doing in the after show. First of all,
I was gonna say we can look at
Mimiron's head decks going head to head here. So yeah, and I think Nefarian has an outside chance of seeing some play. It's going to be in like a Dragon Paladin deck. It's if for some reason it's better than that Ysera at the top of the curve.
I saw Savit's playing a warrior control deck. He threw one in there. I don't know if he was testing it or if he thought it was actually better than the Ysera, but he was definitely running Alex. He might have actually even been running Ysera too. He might have been running the full thing, the full 3,
the full boat of 9s.
Yeah,
that's rough.
That is pretty rough.
But nonetheless, I mean, it is not a bad card, so it's something that's really nice if you're a new player that doesn't own everything and you decide to spend some money to unlock Blackrock Mountain. It can really help you flesh out a control deck to play in the early ranks if you want to experiment with some different styles of play. So a good, well-designed card, not game-breaking by any means. I'd love to see it in Arena, though.
Oh.
No?
Oh. No, I mean, it's
okay.
making me sick thinking about playing against it.
It's still not going to be on the same power level as something like Ragnaros in Arena or what have you, but...
Maybe.
I mean, the same reason like Ysera's kind of weak, right? It like takes 2 extra turns to have any impact on your opponent's side of the board.
You ever played against Ysera in Arena? Bro, you're not winning. You're not winning unless you kill him right then and there.
I was going to say, aren't they just dead often as not? You have to figure you're playing against Mage. If you're going to have any success, you're playing against Mage.
Yeah, I mean, after 7 wins, all you play against is Mage and Paladin, but I don't know, man. It's pretty good.
Ysera's not bad, just like less than you'd think it would be.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our lists here, and the beginning is going to be the winners, the game changers, the things anticipated or not that you're going to see, and you're going to see often because they've been great. The first is Quick Shot, 2 mana, 3 damage. If your hand is empty, draw a card. John, you're the hunter scum,
Hunter.
Yeah, just talk.
Hunter expert, Smork expert. Yeah, Quick Shot. It's a pretty basic card with a pretty basic effect, and it's added a pretty basic amount of added percentage points to Hunter. Nothing too special. It does, like I talked about in the previous episodes, it does give you that chance to draw that card, and the only way I win is if I draw Quick Shot, then Quick Shot into Quick Shot, then get my Arcane Golem and hit him for 10 or whatever, and then Hero Power for 12. That actually happened to Peach, and he was really mad, but it happened to him. It was pretty great.
It was right after the card came out too.
Yeah, it was insane. He didn't think he could lose, and then his opponent goes Quick Shot, Hero Power, weapon, But yeah, it's a pretty generic card. It's not even an auto include like we thought it was. There's definitely times when Wolf Rider is better, but it's not. They're not as swappable as we originally thought. But you definitely want 1 to 2 Quick Shots in your face hunter deck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sit on Hearthpwn and thumb through the hunter decks like some people.
I've had my list for months now.
Right, but I mean, I just don't see. I've given it no thought since it came out. Literally no thought.
Neither has anyone that's played it.
Right. So I still feel like it's just hot swappable for Wolf Rider, but I guess it turns out Wolf Rider's better than some of the other things that were there, I guess. Like, I don't know. To me, they're still, like, the same card. I don't think Wolf Rider has much extra value or not enough worth discussing or, like, planning around.
I mean, it does, because it does, like, if they don't have the answer for it, like, I just underestimated, like, the impact. Like, it does do 6 damage enough times where you'd want to play it.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, Paladins having to use the muster weapon to kill it. There's definitely been times I've had to do it too, so it's a fair point. But just as a solid burn spell, you put it in your Face Hunter deck, you smork and smork some more.
Smork.
Yeah, and that's all the thought you need to give into that one, so we're just going to move on. The next one is Imp Gang Boss, a really, really solid card. It's not hands down winning you the game, but it's smoothing out the curve to so many different decks right now, from handlock variants to zoo decks to the more demon centric handlock versions. Just a really solid playable card. And yeah, John, talk about what you've seen this guy do and how you've felt about it, because we've both played a little bit of Zoo.
Yeah, Zoo, auto include, very good card. It's another card that makes you resilient to board sweeps. Back in my day, when you used to play your 0/4 taunts for 1, the Consecrations and the Flame Strikes of the world would really kind of wreck you. Then Nax came out, you got your Haunted Creepers and Nerubian Eggs. Now you've got this, the third card. I used to run Harvest Golem, but this is even better than that. Protecting you from board sweeps. This guy, unchecked, just keeps your board crazy. It's a demon, so you could play the Demon Heart and Demon Fires if you wanted to. I mean, he really just does it all. Great spot on the curve. He's a demon. Like I said, he makes your Void Callers, if you're playing them, even better, because sometimes you just don't have a demon in your hand to drop with Void Caller. Just been a really solid card, and pretty much almost every Warlock deck that's not a traditional, like, classic handlock deck has been running 1 to 2 Imp Gang Boss. So
yeah,
definitely a big.
Like I said, I've even seen a couple of them show up in there. Kind of, it's almost like in the same vein where a few of them are playing Zombie Chows. I think it's just something to help clutter up. I mean, there's just so much aggro out there right now that they're just looking for something to clutter it up. And maybe that's a sign that, I mean, I don't think traditional handlock is very good. So maybe it just kind of goes hand in hand with that they're struggling for answers and being a little desperate because the deck's not great.
Handlock is decent because it has a pretty good matchup against Patron, and it's pretty good at high ranks because, like we've talked about before, it's really consistent. It's really powerful deck. It really punishes opponents who don't know how to play around it, and it also rewards people who know how to play it. So it's definitely a deck that is. It's been around for a very long time, and I imagine it's going to be around for a very long time. It's not going to go anywhere. As long as Life Coach is still alive and still playing, it will be played.
That's definitely for sure. Next game changer on the list here is Flamewaker. Conveniently, John, when grabbing the image for the card here for this, I saw the golden one, and we're both making it. I don't even want to watch.
Dust, bro?
Yes, we'll find it. I don't ever want to even watch another game where it's not the golden Flamewaker. So the next time I play the deck with any level of seriousness, my Flamewakers will 100% be golden. But yeah, so just a great mage card here from this set. It's added new ways to play mage. It's made other versions of mage from the past a little bit better, and I just think it's a great card design. It feels overpowered at times and then does nothing against Death's Bite and things like that. So just something we've talked about on the podcast before, so we don't need to go into big detail, but I'm sure John might have a little something to add here as well.
Yeah, it's in the same vein as the Imp Gang Boss, not just because it has the same stats, but it went into existing decks. It kind of made its own new splashy kind of aggro deck that may or may not be good. We're not 100% sure where we fall on that aggro deck. I know, Jim, you brewed up a Mech Mage deck that was running a Flame Waker
Mm-hmm.
spell combo in there that seemed really interesting to me. I forgot to catch the list, but yeah, Flame Waker all around really powerful card. Definitely one we're going to be seeing for a while.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in that, you just cut out the hashtag secret package, and you just basically throw this guy in and like arcane missiles, and you'd be surprised how many spells you're already playing. And when you're playing Tinkertown Technicians, you get more spare parts, things like that. So it was interesting, and it did decently for me, but it just kind of still fell in the same vein as Mech Mage as a whole and the Flame Waker deck to me, which is just a little inconsistent. As much as 9 and 10 game win streaks are, 10 and 12 game losing streaks are pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It works out really well as far as actually progressing on the ladder. Like, even though you're going to have long losing streaks, you're still considerably farther ahead. And you also have the option to have a winning streak, start to lose, and just change decks and call it a day, too, as John's talked about. Next card here, Emperor Thaurissan. He's the guy that gets... Yeah, Mr. T. He's the guy that gets thrown into everything. Since he's neutral, he's brought back a lot of different decks, made a lot of old decks good. The best example is Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
So what other impact has this guy had that you've seen, John?
I mean, the impact is that every single deck from now until he gets nerfed or banned or all of the above is that we're going to have to think about the weird and crazy card interactions that happen because of Thaurissan reducing the cost of things. When the next 150 card set comes out, there's 150 cards that we have to look at and think about, what happens if that card is reduced by 1 mana? Like,
You're right.
What happens if I have 2 of that card and they get reduced? Like, they have to be kind of careful with what they print because of this card. But yeah, it's like the Loatheb of Naxxramas. In that it's a really good, solidly, aggressively costed legendary with a really unique effect. But this is much more proactive than the Loatheb. There are definitely decks that, depending on the meta, what they think they're going to play against, might not want Loatheb. This guy, if you're playing spells that cost mana, you probably want it in your deck.
Right.
The patron combo deck, like you said, Freeze Mage, those decks, they're good on their own, but when they have a Thaurissan on 6, it's insane. Druid, ramping out a Thaurissan at basically any point in the game, just insane. His effect is... he's one of the worst cards. It feels the worst to play against him because you're just worried the rest of the game because they've got... who knows what they could have that's reduced in their hand.
I always count how many cards they have and then tick them down as they play something that didn't cost enough mana.
You a professional player?
I mean, I'm just you know what I mean? And it's only because I'm so terrified. I've played a game where I go Sylvanas, Brawl, Grommash, Cruel Taskmaster it. The dumbest thing on the planet. That's 852 mana. I've seen Druid go Force of Nature, Druid of the Claw charged, Savage Roar, Innervate Savage Roar, and it was just
I think that was me.
It probably was, man. I mean, it was
stream yesterday.
It totally was. Yeah, it's disgusting what you can suddenly do. Yeah, you had 2 Innervates to pull that off, I think.
I had 2 Innervates, 2 Savage Roars, a Force of Nature, and a Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, it's just absolutely nuts. I definitely don't spend too much time on Twitch that everything doesn't just blend into one big game.
Yeah, me neither, for sure.
Oh man. So anyways, we've got one more card to go here, and I believe you guys may have seen this one before.
There he is.
Everyone, get in here!
So there he is, Grim Patron. He's the new Cancer deck, and by that I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying what I've heard plenty of times. This deck takes skill to play, guys. That should be the difference. It might be the highest skill cap deck in the game. You'll see a significant win rate increase as you play with it, or if you're me, it'll drop significantly. I'm just getting worse and worse with this deck over time, but it doesn't matter. It's Warriors, so I'm going to play it no matter what. Just insane. What's that?
It's made me, the hunter enthusiast, play Warrior for the last season.
Yeah, Zixo played this deck for 12 hours on the first of the month and was legendary. Or it was like 14 and a half hours. Now, to be fair, Zixo picks whatever deck he wants in the first of the month and is legendary in 15 hours. It's just what happens. But he shaved like a half an hour off of his time by playing this guy instead of something else. So I guess we'll call that impressive. And why he wasn't in the event we're going to talk about later, nobody will ever know. Because I guess it's just because it's not a competition anymore. Like, he just won. They didn't just want to mail him $5,000.
Well, I mean, he has to start with a new account, so that's a little bit different, right?
Is it? I mean, he did it with Zoo last month.
He's so used to it that he would just.
You can't ban every class, so he's gonna find a way, and he doesn't actually have to get legendary. He just has to beat everybody else. Anyways, so yeah, the deal with this guy is you play him with Warsong Commander, and him and all of his friends have charge. Your opponent's entire side of the board dies. Your entire side of the board fills up, and then you pass the turn and just look at your opponent and go, "What now, man? What are you gonna do now?"
Yep.
Often as not, they don't do very much.
No, depending on the class, they just have no answers to it. The first time, like in the first weeks that it came out, people were like, "Oh, okay, I'll trade my 2/1 into there, then ping it with my hero power." Yeah, it doesn't work like that. It's like they attack their 2/1 in, they see it spawn a new one. There's a pause, and they concede. The number of times that happened in the first days that it came out was a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty great. You got some free ranks for sure using that one, extending some win streaks you can no longer pull off. It's definitely kind of format defining, right? Like, it's among the things, like, you need to pass the Face Hunter test, and now you need to pass the Grim Patron test. Can you compete with that deck? There's plenty of classes that can. I don't see much that's broken about it unless I've already played Emperor Thoris in that game. There's times you go from I'm dead, I got zooed, I'm getting crushed, to 7 guys, one of them's Armor Smith, Whirlwind 4 times. I'm at 500.
They have no board. I gain 12 life and have 17 power on board.
Yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say, the silly things you can do post Thorison are just out of control.
Oh, it's absolutely insane. I've been playing this a lot. I think I have like 120 warrior wins on ranked right now, and I think all of them have been this deck in the last 2 seasons. My concern with this deck is that every single time thus far that there has been some sort of combo deck, and usually with Warrior, because Warrior has been the combo class in Hearthstone so far, they nerf something, they change it, they errata, they completely nerf something. Warsong Commander used to just give all of your guys haste statically. Ugh, that was insane. It was just all of them, regardless of power, and they always had haste as long as Warsong Commander was in play. They changed that so that you couldn't combo them with Molten Giant and Young Brewmaster.
Where's your old man back in my day voice?
Back in my day, I used to play Molten Giants for free, attack with charge, play a Young Brewmaster, bounce it, play it again, attack with charge. That's 19 damage.
I've never even seen that, so...
that was so fun. That deck was so fun. And then they nerfed... and charge used to just cost 0 mana and give a guy charge. So you would set up a... so after Warsong Commander got nerfed to what it is now, charge still costs 0. And what you would do is you'd set up a Gorehowl. You just leave a Gorehowl out. You'd Alexstrasza them the next turn, play charge on Alexstrasza, and attack them for 15.
Yeah.
They nerf that too. And this is not exactly the same as that. I think this is probably... I think if Blizzard wants to have these sorts of, like, not as interactive combos, but they still want some sort of combo element, I think that they might have actually hit it perfectly here. With it not being too broken, but still being very powerful and powerful enough for high-level tournament play. I really hope that they don't nerf it. because it's really fun and it's really it's just really skill testing. These types of decks are what make me love Hearthstone.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and like I said, the only time I think it ges broken is with Thaurissan. So if they want to do something to maybe take the power level down of the deck a little bit, it's not going to be touch Grim Patron. It's going to be hit Thaurissan and make it just act like a normal deck again. Because when you're waiting till 8 mana, often there's plenty of ways to kill you before 8 mana. Just ask Hunters.
Yeah.
But this deck's matchup against Hunter is really good.
I think it really depends on if you have Armor Smith or not. Like, it's like you can get far enough behind where like you can't even do anything. Like I've had the matchup not go that well a number of times.
I didn't verify the stats, but in his climb, I don't think Zixo lost to Hunter once.
No, I'm probably just playing it wrong.
It's possible he's just playing it out of his mind as well. Like he just had like a hot run with it or something like that. Because if I remember correctly too, it was not necessarily the largest sample size either. So
he also, I actually found his list because Strife Pro was playing it last night, and I've been playing that list. He has 2 Armor Smiths in his deck, so I could see it being a good matchup if you have 2 Armor Smiths. I've played as few as 0 Armor Smiths, and now I'm playing 2, just because of where I am in the ladder. I think that's what's kind of cool about the deck is that there's so many options. I've been changing the deck list every day, trying new things, trying Blood Mage Thanos, Loot Hoarder, Shield Block, all sorts of stuff. There's a huge arsenal of possibilities that you can be playing. You can even just play like a completely different style of deck. You play a mid-range deck with just the patron package in there, #patron package in there, but just playing like a mid-range warrior deck or a control warrior deck with just that that board clear in there. I don't know. It's really versatile. It's really skill testing. It's really fun. It hits on all levels. It's great.
And I had that really hyper aggressive warrior style deck that performed really well. Yeah, that has some legs. I'm not 100% sure that's not something that can be brought back. I just kind of gave up on it because I have Golden Warrior, but
maybe I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, well, we could even look at it in the after show and maybe play a couple games on your ladder account or whatever if you want to.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Disappointments. Womp womp.
We did not plan that, folks. It just happened.
We at times can be very similar, mostly the same people. Anyways. That's really just us poking fun at it because you didn't you were all really disappointed when you saw it, right? Because it was the first legendary. We didn't expect this to be very good, and it's just not. This is kind of like the worst cards in the set.
Yeah.
Just spend 7 mana to kill Blood Mage Thalnos and then die to sweat. It seems great. They still draw the card. Yeah. Because oftentimes you're just spending 7 mana for an 8/4. It saw way more play than I thought it would, and by that I mean Kibler played it for at least a little while. Don't
play it. Here's my contribution. The only amount I've seen, the only thing I've seen. How am I going to phrase this joke? The only way you can spend a worse amount for an 8/4 is to spend $15 to draft on Magic Online. There we go. Because they're 8/4, 8 packs, 4 packs tournaments. Get it? It's a joke.
Demon Wrath.
Maybe that's the joke. Maybe that's the joke is that they made him an 8/4 because he's awful and Magic Online is awful. I love Ren Blackhand all of a sudden.
The next disappointment is Demon Wrath. It's a 3 mana. It's a 3 mana Warlock spell that deals 2 damage to all non-demon minions. I thought it might have had a shot, but we're seeing just so many demons in these zoo decks now, and it's just not really even being considered.
Yeah, it's just been completely skipped over.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it at all, actually.
I've seen it
literally 0.
Maybe once or twice, not very much, and I'm no longer thinking it has a home. It's just distinctly not Pyroclasm, and this is distinctly not Magic, so that makes this kind of effect probably underwhelming for the cost.
I think the problem is that I don't think that the point on your curve where you want to Wrath is going to move back a turn, but also only be 2, because of, like, this doesn't kill 2/3s all of a sudden. So you're not going to want to play it in the control deck where you want to use it as a Wrath. You don't really want to play it in your Zoo deck because you want to be playing your Direwolf Alphas and your Knife Jugglers, so it's kind of a nombo with those. It's just kind of like awkward. It's just awkwardly costed, awkward damage, and has an awkward effect with your own spells. It's just not good enough. It's just simple as that.
It's just a disappointment.
Yep.
The next disappointment. Priest has a 2-mana spell called Resurrect. Summon a random friendly minion that died this game. High risk, high reward. High risk, like, yeah, it's not. It just doesn't get there. You can't cut that much from Priest to guarantee a high enough percentage that you'll get good value off of this card, and it's just it's such a high variance play that when I build decks, and I think a lot of people are like this, they try to cut down on the variance. You can't get rid of it. This is Hearthstone. But if you eat away at it and take some of it out of your deck, you will see a better win rate, just an overall higher win percentage. It's one of the things I've definitely noticed since I've started tracking my games. I've seen it get Northshire Clerics when somebody had 9 cards in their hand, and you know what I mean, like against another priest, and like there's times it's terrible, or it's just you get the Northshire Cleric, you have nothing to heal because you have no other board, and it just dies right away, does nothing. On a good day, you're getting an injured Blade Master. On a great day, you're getting Sylvanas. On an average day, you're just not getting enough. You're maybe getting a 1/2 second half of Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, it's just not there.
Yeah.
Well, just like Demon Wrath, it's just awkward. It doesn't do what you want it to enough of the time to justify it.
Cool card design. I like it. I'm
very
just
cool.
Not going to play it in my Priest decks.
Not yet, at least.
Gang Up was a pretty big disappointment for me personally. We'll talk more about this again. 2 minutes. These are so awkward, but they have to be. Gang Up is a 2-mana rogue spell. Choose a minion, shuffle 3 copies of it into your deck. It kind of made Mill Rogue a little bit better for a little while, and then people continued to play Mill Rogue and realized this is one of your weaker cards. Like, it's often bad in your hand. I think we talked about Win More earlier today, and this is that. You were going to win anyways, guys. So, when you send screenshots to somebody where you have six of the Cold Light Oracles in your hand at the end of the game, you didn't need them, so don't worry about them.
Yeah, I wanted it to be good. Played Mill Rogue. This card wasn't good in Mill Rogue. Mill Rogue wasn't good, and then I wondered why I was playing Mill Rogue in the first place. Sad.
Because Mukla, bro.
Because Mukla's awesome. You just play him in Paladin, though.
For sure.
Jeeves. And Wisp.
He's not even good with... I mean, he's not bad with Jeeves, but it's the other one that he's really synergistic with. Divine Favor, I believe it's called.
Yeah, you don't even need to play that card anymore.
All right, well, on to the next, and that is Lava Shock. This had so much potential, and it just turns out that it's really awkward to thread into those turns where you're overloaded. You want to... It's turn 6, you want to be casting your Fire Elemental, but now instead you have to cast this 2-mana spell and then have a 4-mana spell, and it just becomes really, really clunky, and it just didn't do it.
Nope. It's really, like you said, really hard to unlock the mana perfectly and spend it all. If you don't spend it all, what was the point of unlocking it, If you're left with an extra mana crystal at the end, then it just didn't unlock that mana, basically. Like, you might as well think of it that way. And also, you have to spend a card to do this. So is doing 2 damage and adding 2 mana worth spending a card? Maybe, but you have to work for it. And, this card just never ended up being the slam dunk we wanted to. It was just a layup and some nice passing.
They need to make it cost 1 like the rest of the shocks. And then I think you would start to see it more. I think you'd start to see Earth Elemental come out of its shell a little bit, things like that. Cool card design. I love that they tried it, and it just didn't quite do it. Oops. This is where we show the cards that we either loved, and we just talked about them in that disappointment section, or we didn't like them, and we talked about them in that first section. So there's a lot of, there's some cards that we may not have seen yet. I actually don't remember, but this is where the repeats will really start to come in. I'm begrudgingly allowing this card to remain on the list. John swears he's seen it. I've
seen a number of people play it.
I feel like I haven't. I feel like I haven't seen it very much. I put the number of times I've seen it at 2. So if I'm being realistic, that means I've seen it about 5 times. And there's probably 5 other times when he held it back because he couldn't get value. And the card is exactly what I thought it was. And that means 50% of the time it was trash and it just sat in his hand and did nothing. And I feel like even when he's played it, it hasn't done anything. It didn't do very much. I don't know.
I mean, the 5 health is quite good. And if you, I've talked about before, if you pair it with Defender of Argus and that sort of shell, maybe, a 4/6 taunt is pretty good, and then you follow it up with a dragon. I don't know. We basically, I wanted this on the list because we called it as absolutely 0, no play whatsoever, and it saw a non-zero amount of play. It's not the biggest oops, and maybe it shouldn't even be on the list at all, but I needed to populate the segment with something.
And, honestly, he is right. We called it as nothing, and it's not quite nothing. I'm just being begrudging, and I think the people that are doing it are just wrong and should feel bad.
Agree.
So, anyways, that's our story, and we're sticking with it. We still think you shouldn't play it, but people are, so we were wrong. The next one is Cro-Magus. I think we all kind of like this. We thought it was going to have a home and really fill out that Dragon Paladin deck. And I've got to say, as a guy that's played it for 6 more than maybe most people have, it still just dies. It's not... You can't kill it with BGH, but it still just dies.
Yeah, the problem is, you play this and you're like, oh, I got this. You play this huge effect. You're thinking, I'm going to get something. You play KT. I'm going to get something right now. I'm going to windmill slam this, and the game's going to change right now. Or, you play an 8-mana spell. It's like, oh, I'm protected by taunt forever. I've got everything. This guy, he's basically vanilla, honestly. And an 8-mana 6/8, the stats are good. The 6/8 is good, but the 8 mana is not where you want to be. And, when you're playing him for 6, the 6-mana 6/8 is good, but then, you kind of think about, we can just play a 6-mana 6/7 where it's 6 mana all the time, and it's like a silenced Cro-Magus, the Boulder Fist Ogre. That card has never seen constructed play that I know of. So, really underwhelming. Cro-Magus, he's decent, but he's not the he's gonna replace, he's gonna solve all of our problems, he's gonna be the greatest legend ever, sort of thing. He's just been kind of mediocre and played in dragon style decks, but not really in much of else.
Yeah, I know certain people that we know that just play with all golden things all the time, and that narrows it down pretty far. I won't name him specifically.
There's 2 people that it could be.
And he was just snap buying the golden one right away. I can't wait. Yeah. I'm all in. It's funny because they both play Paladin, so we're really never going to narrow this down. It was Lou.
I think I know who you're talking about.
It was definitely Lucids.
I was going to say we don't want to embarrass Lucids though.
And it's not even like he was huge on it. He just thought it was going to really, be a role player and fit in well. And it just turns out that, like you said, it's kind of just Boulder Fist Ogre. But the best, I thought when it first came out, I was like, eh. And then when I played with it, I was like, oh man, because my first game I just saw infinite value. I drew 4 times with it. It was I doubled my Equalities, then I doubled my Azure Drakes and cast my Azure Drake into another Azure Drake. and then played a second Azure Drake for the turn and drew like two, you know what I mean, doubled my next card. It was just the craziest thing in the world, and I'm thinking like, if I can just get a third of that value the next time I play him, I'm gonna win that game too.
It turns out asking for that much value is, in fact, a tall order.
Yeah, you can't even usually get to that third of that value. So,
yeah.
It's
and a quick little aside about Chromagus. Today on stream, I accidentally queued up into ranked with a deck that I built to beat Heroic Blackrock Mountain. I accidentally go into rank with a Druid deck. It has Chromagus in it. And I'm on stream, I'm like playing, I'm like, okay, let's beat Nefarian or whatever, and then it's like, Malfurion versus Malfurion. I'm like, that doesn't sound like Nefarian. Oh, I'm in ranked. It's like, not only did I go in constructed, I went into ranked.
perfect.
Long story short, I crushed the guy with Chromagus. I had like a turn 4 Chromagus, and then I went double Grove Tender afterwards, drew 4 cards, and
Right.
just destroyed him. I got to Poison Seed Starfall him. Just completely wrecked him.
I mean,
so good.
it's bound to happen on occasion. It's just not very often, and
No.
it's not a complete miss. You know, we just thought it was going to be something. Yeah, it just needs more. I don't know. It's got to get some more work in. In the future, if there's ways to activate it right away, you know what I mean, to get that instant value off of it, that'll be something to think about down the road.
Yep.
My bad. I'm so sorry. I was like
Me too.
all in on Gang Up. I'm just I
wanted it so bad.
I thought it was good in just like creature rogue. Like I'm just like, I don't even know, man. I feel
Tempo Rogue.
I just want to
We
crawl
felt
into
so
a
bad
hole
with
and die.
Tempo Rogue.
Ugh,
Me too. Man, me too.
Ugh,
I
alright.
lost so many games to Tempo Rogue.
I
I
can't.
think I went a whole season of just losses. I think they somehow put me down to rank 21. They were just like, yeah, you don't get the sleeves this season. You don't get them. You lost too much.
Yeah, it was definitely brutal. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So Shaman has this Lava Shock spell we've already talked about.
This is your fault, man. I'm always against Shaman.
You are,
This is your fault.
and it's funny because we're deck teching Shaman, and it's arguably the best ladder class in the game right now. So I don't know. We have to eat crow on this, and this is definitely another one where it's me, because when I get excited about something, I get really excited about it, and I'm loud, so everybody knows I'm excited about it. And I thought this was like, nope, this is super good. Like I was like, nope, Colpet's just the literal worst, and I had all these idiot hunter players that don't know how to use their brains trying to argue with the evaluation that Colpet was terrible. I literally, like, I'm on Facebook, I'm like, listen, if Colpet's good, I'll just uninstall the game and delete my account. Like, I'll dust everything, turn it into Nozdormu's, and go, and, like, I feel like I would have just actually done it. I would have been so disappointed if I was wrong about Colpet.
There's no way you could be wrong about Colpet.
No, I don't think so.
Trash that.
Significantly garbage. Just hero ability. Anyways, turns out same thing's true for Lava Shock. And I guess just hero ability, because totems are sweet, and this doesn't do anything.
Except when I go 6 for 6, Flame Tongue Totem or whatever it is, 1/1 totem. Just run it off.
I mean,
So
if you then you're just playing Paladin though.
yeah, except I don't have muster for battle in or not muster. I don't have Quartermaster in Shaman.
It's true. But at least Lava Storm has upside over Consecrate. I mean, it can do 3. It has that chance.
Do 3 when you need it though. Does it ever do?
I don't know, but when it doesn't, I won't have Lava Shock to help me because I'm not playing that card anymore.
It'll definitely do 3 to the 3/2 Grim Patron and 2 to the
2/3
yeah.
Oh boy. Anyways, Shaman's good now, and it has nothing to do with this card. So, my bad. I don't even know why that card would be in the Oops section. Apparently, I just added Grim Patron to the end of that list. That's totally legit. Yeah, that's totally legit.
Because
this is the opposite.
I I looked back, I watched our spoiler thing, and I was like, yeah, I think 5 mana is too much. I think. Well, also, it is worth noting that when we did that episode, Warsong Commander hadn't been fixed yet, so we kind of didn't really evaluate it. I think the quote was, we were talking about Warsong Commander because remember we did that after show where we were testing out all the weird warrior stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Warsong Commander hadn't been fixed yet, so I was like, yeah, it doesn't give it charge, but if it does, we'll probably see this. But I wasn't like, this card is going to make its own deck.
We were testing
It is
Commanding
going
Shout Bouncing Blade, actually.
We were, but that was the same episode where we talked about.
Oh, okay.
this.
Okay,
I just
gotcha.
watched it the other day, so I know what I'm talking about. kind
Gotcha.
of. I wasn't like, this is the truth. Play Grim Patron Warrior. It will get you to rank 1 legend.
Yeah.
Which, unless if I would have said that, I would be very impressed with myself and would probably have my own talk show on TV about Hearthstone, because now it somehow is popular with the plebs.
Yeah, honestly, like, I think at best my analysis of this card was like, it might find a home in Warrior. I could see it being possible, and that's still wrong, because it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like I said, like we've said,
Definitely said, I think 5 mana might be too much. That is a line that was said in reference to this card.
Blevins 2K15.
Yep.
Now people want it to be 6, so it's that much harder to do anything with it. But
it doesn't need to be 6. That's the problem.
No, it's actually completely fine where it is.
You don't fix this card, you fix other ones if it's broken.
Yep. Nailed it. This is what we just got stone cold right. Whether we hated it and it didn't see play, or we loved it and everybody's playing it. Let's take a look at Druid of the Flame. 3 mana, 2/2, but not really, because when you play it, you choose between a 5/2 or a 2/5. I believe my argument was, maybe in the future there's such an aggro-heavy world where you want it, or maybe you want it in like an Ancient Watcher Druid style build, but not in Druid as we know it today.
Right.
Very kind of bland and doesn't do very much. And I think you were a little more scathing on this one.
Yeah, I was like, you never play it over Shade of Naxxramas, which, I mean, maybe you played over Shade of Naxxramas sometimes, but I don't think so. I think it went from, at the beginning wasn't played at all, then it got played like universally, and now it's kind of like, maybe you just don't even need 3s at all. Like just save your Innervate for a later turn. Like, that's how the Druid deck is now. Like, getting the 3, like getting this out on turn 1 really isn't even that great, even against Hunter.
Yeah.
Like, their Wolf Riders are still doing their 3. Like, it doesn't actually matter. It's not that good.
Right. Yeah, it's the wrong kind of... Like, it has a better chance in the Zoo world, which we're half in, but it just doesn't do anything against the Hunter, so you need cards that help you in both of those aggressive creature-based matchups.
Yeah.
And
For
not
what
just
it's
one of
worth,
them.
In a tournament game, I did on turn 3, I played it on turn 3 as a 5/2, and it traded for an Emperor. So,
That
pro
means...
player right here.
So
Pro
you were
player
also
right here.
playing against Druid?
I was playing against something.
Because it had to ramp it out. Otherwise it got crazy value because it dealt some damage to his face too, and then it would be amazing.
It's possible that happened.
It's fairly ballsy though, man. I don't think I'd ever cast it as a 5/2.
I don't remember what made me think that it was a good idea, but I did it, and it paid off handsomely.
It got there. Resolved.
We got there, boys. Yeah.
All right. Twilight Whelp is in fact awful. It's a 1 mana 2/1 that, if you're lucky, is a 2/3. It's also a 1 mana dragon, so you hopefully played it really early, and then it doesn't help with all the things in your deck that say if you're holding a dragon. I guess if you draw, it's probably at its best being drawn mid-game and fueling every single one of those cards while never seeing play.
Yeah. But then why don't you just play a 5-mana dragon that you could play and have an effect on the board or something?
I don't know, John. That's good logic. I've just
That's good logic. But guess what? We were right.
Yes.
This card is trash.
Yeah,
Belongs in the trash.
just play Zombie Chow.
Yes, please.
Imp Gang Boss. We talked about it earlier. It is exactly what we thought it was. The decks needed it. They're playing it. It fit nicely in the mana curve. It's made them better. And yeah, that's pretty much what we said when we saw it. And
check. We got there, boys.
Absolutely. Emperor Thorson. We're not going to really take too much credit on this one. So, if it...
Just reading the card kind of explained how good it was.
if it looks broken and it smells broken, it's probably broken. And it's not... I don't know that it's actually broken. Like, I think it's healthy right now. You know what I mean? Like, the format's strong right now. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. But, as we talked about at the time, it kind of hinders future card development. And it's just one of those things that we feel like over time is inevitable to get nerfed. How long they wait will be really interesting to see.
Yeah. It's really good, and that's what we said. So, we got there, boys.
Woo!
Whoop.
Stupid Red.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
All right, well, this weekend, Play It Cool was a tournament that was held by Asus, and let's just get the negatives out of the way first. I think it was the most blatantly advertised on tournament that I've ever seen. I don't know if Asus was the only sponsor, but I know that I spent a considerable amount of my time looking at a laptop do a video benchmark test with a heat monitor on it, so that way I could see that it wasn't going to, burn my lap or burn up the processor, or I don't know what. But that was the only thing I didn't like about this tournament. It was pretty sweet. I'm going to run down the details of the tournament here, and then me and John will tell you some of the interesting and fun things we saw, as well as kind of the drama and insanity of the end of this event. So, Forsen, Kungen, Reynad, and Savitz all sat in a room with 4 computers and brand new...
4 Asus brand computers
running
the heatsink power to not burn your lap.
Literally,
you by Asus.
Literally that laptop. So, they all had fresh accounts. Their mages were level 10, and all their other classes were level 5. That means 20 out of the 20 mage cards were unlocked. 10 of the 20 cards were unlocked for all the other classes.
That's weird.
Each player, they went around in round robin at the beginning of the event and did bans, okay? So, basically, everybody got to ban one deck from every other player. So each player ended up with 3 banned classes. Next, Ramus and Blackrock Mountain were unlocked, but not completed. So if you wanted access to those cards, you had to go spend the time of the 24 hours to unlock them. If the players faced head-to-head against each other on the ladder, the winner chose a card, and I don't know that this ever happened, I certainly didn't see it, but the winner chose a card of the losers to disenchant.
Awesome.
Every hour, each player will open 3 new packs of their choosing between BRM and GVG. Every 3 hours, the player in last place will get 3 packs. Every 2 hours, viewers will be able to participate in a Twitter vote in which they can select which player will receive an additional 5 packs. So, Forsen Boys represented fairly strong in the Twitter vote, and he won most of them. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah, that seems like kind of a stupid thing, but maybe not. I mean, the tournament's for promotion, so I guess it's kind of cool that they did that.
I thought it was pretty interesting to kind of bring things in. So the event started off right away. As soon as the bans ended, Reynad asked if he could concede. He felt that the other 2 players that had access to Warlock were just going to win, and it wasn't going to be close. It was kind of fair, but I think almost Kungen had Mage available to him, so he had kind of that extra speed of the one class being unlocked a little further. He actually led for most of the event, but John, I'll let you talk about what you got to see since you were working Saturday and didn't get to watch the end.
Yeah, I really didn't see. No, all I saw was the absolute, literally last seconds of it.
Oh, okay.
I saw the conclusion of it. I didn't actually. I just kind of saw on Twitter what was happening. I saw people going hashtag packs for Reynad, and people talking about it on Twitter. But I didn't actually see any of the event besides the very end.
Gotcha. Well, it was fairly interesting. Kungen jumped out to a fairly early lead with that mage start. You know, he opened really, really well. He got like he went with the GVG packs, which people were surprised about, since generally the value's kind of better in the classic packs. But he's building towards this mage strategy, and his first pack had like piloted shredder, snow chugger, and Goblin Blast Mage in it, so it was just like it wasn't actually what it was, but yeah, he just like hit like crazy cards like in his first 3 packs, and just almost went like immediately into ladder. Some of the other guys like Forsen he was building for Zoo, so he definitely had to go unlock some things. The egg. I'm trying to think of what else really. Imp Gang Boss, things like that. He had to do some work in the solo adventures, which were really fun to watch people play with just basic decks. Like Forsen lost like 3 times to one of the regular mode solo adventures. It was really really interesting. Just terrible card choices too. Like they almost like weren't worrying about what their decks were, since they couldn't make good ones anyways. It felt like sometimes they just had some really awkward choices. But Reynad spent like 4 hours in there, and for whatever reason decided I'm gonna go for Dragon Priest, and like ended the tournament rank 8. So in 24 hours with owning nothing, and like minimal, being capped at how many packs he could buy, things like that. They were allowed to spend their gold and their dust however they wanted, but they weren't allowed to do any arena. So yeah, he ended up like just spending like 3.5 or 4 hours in solo adventures. Like he went and unlocked Twilight Drake.
What?
I don't know. Like it just feels like Zombie Chow's faster to get to, so go get that one.
The Dragon Well.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Twilight Well.
Twilight Drake is the 4-drop one. Wow, that's interesting that he did that.
Yeah, and that's like the last swing of BRM, which is probably the harder of the 2 solo adventures, and it's the class challenge, so he had to full clear it. But I guess he like got Nefarian for his dragon deck, so it wasn't really all a loss. But he spent forever in there, and he could have just picked a real deck like Paladin or something like that, and probably made a decent go at it, since he's a pretty good player, and especially good at deck building. Yeah, that's what they say. So, anyways, things go on. I don't know. I fall asleep and I wake up too late, and Forsen is just way ahead and not playing the game. I guess he spent like 3 hours sitting on his lead not playing because he'd started to lose a little bit. Stars didn't matter in this event. Rank 4 5 stars was the same as rank 4 0 stars. So he got real low in rank 4 and stopped playing for a while. When I started watching again, he was like actually playing, but he didn't do it for long. I think he came back to see, somebody was getting close to him, so he like tried to see if he could get back up a little bit, and he didn't, so he stopped again. Meanwhile, 2 hours before the end of the event, Kungen's in second place, Savitz is in third. Kungen loses a couple games and hits a brick wall, and Savitz just goes crazy with this shaman deck we're going to look at very soon. It just catches straight up to him. He's playing this game against Freeze Mage with 2 minutes on the clock, and like pulls this lethal from nowhere. It was like one of the craziest plays I've seen, and I don't even know how long. And just steals this game from Freeze Mage, queues into another game, and ends up, whether stars were relevant or not, at the exact same rank and stars that Forsen was at.
That's Forsen.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was insane. Now, the rules said that the players in the event of a tie were going to have to field 2 decks and play a best of 3. Both players said, we've been awake for 27 hours. How about we do a best of 1? So they queued up with their ladder decks played, and Savitz ended up taking it down. So it was insane. It was a really, really fun event. It was really, really interesting. It's something I plan to kind of use the format. I want to do something similar, maybe a 12-hour event with, you and maybe Peach and somebody else. I know Flex said he doesn't think he can really commit that much time to really aim for anything like that. But we've definitely got some other people we can bring in and use. And there's really no reason to limit it to 4 players.
Right.
So definitely something to keep an eye on down the road. But John, what did you see from it, and what did you take away from the event?
Yeah, I saw the very end, like you said, the Savits catching up, and winning that game against Freeze Mage, and then winning the game after. I think he got like some miracle, like a Noyotron off piloted Shredder to keep him alive against Face Hunter in like his last game, and then he ends up winning. Yeah, it was insane. It's like, how is that even possible that after 24 hours of play, two players end up at the same exact rank? That's like, I don't even like, what are the chances that happens? And on the first time that they ever did it, it's like insane. This type of format is really cool, and you know, it really just speaks to the depth of what you can really do with this Hearthstone engine. You know, they can implement something in game. I mean, obviously not 24 hours, but they could have like I don't know, like an hour challenge, or like, you know, a tournament where you start at the same, and you start with a wiped account, and you just go into this mode and like do like a tournament or something like that. Like that sort of stuff is like kind of cool. It's possible they could implement it in game, but if not, you know, this format itself is really cool, and I'm really excited to do anything that we plan with it. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. It's really going to depend on how much, I don't want to say like funding we can get, but it's going to come down to like how much we want to commit to it, because they're fresh new accounts, and like we have to buy the packs for them.
Right.
So it's definitely going to not be to the same scale that Asus was able to pull off without bankrupting them. But we do want to try to do something similar, and we will keep you guys updated.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to take a look at this here Mech Shaman deck that I've been playing on ladder. Now, this is actually Savitsa's list that he was playing on stream the other day. Really, really just crazy aggressive deck that bursts you down from crazy amounts of damage. I know John's played it a little bit too, so I'll let him discuss what it does a little bit and how he's been successful with it or not.
Yeah, I've not been super successful with it. It kind of has fallen in the same category that we've talked about with the mage deck, so it's just really not consistent enough for me. You know, you have the games where you get your Mech Warper, and you play 3 mechs, or you just crush with Fel Reaver. And that's worth noting, that Fel Reaver has been absolutely fantastic for me. Almost every single time I've cast it, it's been really good. And I'm really excited to see that card see more play. But, you know, the deck in general has just seemed too clunky, and it's kind of like it's run out of steam. I've hit the wrong totems. Maybe I just had a bad run with it. I still have it built, so I'm definitely willing to give it another chance, but it just didn't click for me.
So my version of the deck is fairly different here. I, for example, don't play Enhanso Mechano. I don't play...
Yeah, that card was terrible for me.
Don't play Tinkertown Technician. I don't even play Fireguard Destroyer. Instead, I play Bomb Lobbers, and I play a Doomhammer.
I did throw a Doomhammer in there. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, Doomhammer Rockbiter gets there, often is not. I've been incredibly successful with this deck. I haven't actually been running the tracker program on it because I don't care. It's just my crush some early round, some early ranked games with it deck. It's not something I would consider for a tournament or anything like that. But I would put it at around like 70 to 75%. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it's got to be close to that. I'm rank 8 right now, and it's been going fairly well for me. I did have one down day with this deck, and I went back to Patron, and I didn't play Patron that well either, so I don't know if maybe my head just wasn't in it that day or what have you. Or maybe I climbed up a little too high and got too big for my britches for what the competition was like. That's entirely possible as well.
Right.
It was really, really interesting, and I've got to say, it's just, like you said, Fel Reaver is out of this world. It's only backfired to the point of, lost because of it one time.
Yeah, I rarely ever, for me.
And it was, Rogue played, 4 things, and then after that, as they play, Backstab and all these ridiculous things, then he's just by the way, prep sap. And I'm just and scoop. The only other way it really backfires on you is I've had Paladin make it follow the rules. Yep, and that's definitely brutal. But I think in that game, I honest to God just earth shocked it and cracked him in the face for 8 no matter what. So there's ways around it. Definitely look for ways to use the earth shock on it, especially if it has to follow the rules. But it doesn't like to, and it doesn't have to too often.
Right.
And John, can we get the whirring Zap-O-Matic real quick? Yeah. That card does some crazy, crazy, stupid things. And I play that with that card a little differently than I saw Savitz do it. Savitz did it like, I have 2 mana, go. I did it like, I'm going to wait to Power Mace, and then as it's death rattling, I'm going to play it, and then it's going to be a 5/4 and be that much more resilient. Take it or leave it. There's games you don't have a choice based on what your hand is. You have to slam it on 2, and then you're like, I guess on turn 3, I'll Flame Tongue Totem, Rock Biter, weapon it, and just crunch you for 1,000,000 damage, and I don't care if you kill it now. It was totally worth it. It's all about that burst damage. You're not really, you have the...
About that burst damage.
Totally fine. And you also just have those stupid mech draws where you have 2 mech warpers out and your druid opponent gets really mad at you and emotes you the whole time and then adds you as a friend immediately afterwards.
I always accept.
Snap, accept, copy, pasta your message to him to make him mad and get out of there. It's my move. You're trying to ruin my day, and I know a guaranteed way to ruin yours.
I always just post my Twitch stream in there to tell them that they look like an ass on stream.
I would never give that big of a jerk my Twitch to come blow up my chat.
I would love it. As long as he follows, I don't care.
I feel like he's probably not going to. But this deck has really been surprising to me because you have that strong mid-range game too. Sometimes you're watching them flow by on Fel Reaver as they disappear, but you have Fire Elemental, Dr. Boom, Lothab. There's just a really good late game curve to go with your early aggression that just punches some damage in. And at the end of the day, in my version of the deck, Doomhammer, Rock Biters, your flare finish, your way to just steal a game that maybe you were starting to fall behind in, and it's been really strong for me. I recommend you guys give it a whirl.
Yep. Give it a whirl in Zap-O-Matic.
Speeding up. This week's streamer spotlight is Ghouligosh. Ghouligosh is an Irish streamer. She's 26. She does not have the longest streams running, so be a little patient. It might take you a little while to catch her, but definitely one worth watching. John introduced me to her relatively recently, and I only caught 1 or 2 streams, but I had a really good time. As you can see there, she likes to have a good time on her stream. She's pouring herself a pint, as the Irish are wont to do. And I'll let John talk about her because he's been watching her for longer than I have.
Yeah, she's kind of in that, I want to call it the Asmodee TV cult that I've been introduced to so recently by Aflex. And, I've heard people talking about Asmo, and I'm like, Asmo, who's this Asmo guy? And, I checked him out. He's cool, but he's not our spotlight. Ghoulie is. And she's always in that chat, and she's always in Aflex's chat. She's always in, any of those people, Rev, Joey, all those people that are in that that family. She's in that mix, and I'm always talking to her on chat, and on her stream, she's always so nice. Her stream isn't it's not going to be like a Strife Crow stream where Strife Crow will play pristinely, but it will be probably the most boring stream you've ever watched in your entire life when you're watching Strife Crow. It's like, oh, okay, guys, I won another 10-game win streak. This deck's perfect, and I played it perfect. Okay, guys. Crowfist. No, that's not what's gonna happen. We might be doing a little bit of drinking. We might, we might go on some lose streaks, but we're gonna have fun doing it. That's her kind of her mantra, I guess. The best way to describe it, she was getting really excited that she would hit Strife Cross the bomb. She got really excited to hit rank 5 last season, which is cool because rank 5 is definitely one of those milestones as a player to want to get to. And just to set the record clear, I don't not like Strife Crow. I like Strife Crow, but that's neither here nor there. I'm getting bombarded right now.
Definitely, he hates Strife Crow. Confirmed.
I'm getting bombarded for dissing Strife Crow.
Hate mail. I'll give you guys his email address in the after show. You guys can send him some hate-filled spew. In fact, it's on the screen right now. He has to read those. He's contractually obligated to read it. It's right there.
But yeah, Ghoulie, great streamer, really nice girl. She always gives me a shout out when I ask for one, which is awesome. So that's good enough for my book. Go to her stream, shoot her a follow, and tell her that we sent you.
Yeah,
she will appreciate it.
And it's something to consider too, that when you're somebody that pushes for Legend and has been there, you don't think of rank 5 as that good. But when I when I end a season and I'm rank 3 and I'm a little disappointed, it tells me what percentile I'm in, and it's the top 1% of players.
It's the top 0.1% of players.
Well, maybe up in Legend. I don't think that's the case at rank 3.
I finished in 3 and it was like 0.3%.
I don't remember exactly what it was. I feel like it was 1%.
Really high.
Yeah,
it's definitely more than 1%.
Being in top, up north of rank 5 or at rank 5 is really good in the grand scheme of things. There's a lot of people that can't do that, so it's nothing to shake your head at. You will learn from her. As he just fires shots at his friends like it's his job.
I'm firing shots at my friends. I'm firing crow fists at Strife Crow.
Oh man, I think Strife Crow should spend some time talking about how big of a scrub you are and about how he doesn't like our podcast on his next stream, because I can't think of any better advertising than that would be.
So nice, though. Couldn't think of a better advertising than having a popular streamer tell people not to watch us.
Right,
that would
just
be the greatest.
Just flame you. Oh my! It would make me positive that we're on the right track here with this thing.
Definitely give us 10,000 fake internet points each. Easily.
Oh man, 10,000 fake internet points. I'd pay a lot of money for that.
Pay a lot of real internet points.
All right, so we're going to move on to the question and answer section. And John, I think there was a couple up in chat, so if you can find them, feel free to highlight them or anything like that.
Here's one. Hey Maker asks, have you considered silencing your own Fel Reaver so you don't lose that many cards? Deathblow kind of talked about that, but not for that reason specifically. I'll go into it in just a little bit of detail. Here's the long and short of it. If you don't lose to fatigue, then Fel Reaver doesn't have a downside. That's the long and short of it. It doesn't actually matter if you lose cards unless you are playing a combo deck and you need specific cards to win. If you win the game with no cards in your deck or you win the game with 30 cards in your deck, it doesn't matter. You win the game. If it's the classic mill strategy argument that people use all the time in Magic. It doesn't matter if you mill someone for 59 cards or if you mill them for 1. If they don't lose, it doesn't matter. So Fel Reaver's ability is not a downside unless they kill you.
Yeah, it's really narrow where you'd want to do it, but there are certainly times, and having to follow the rules is one of the best examples of it. For the most part, what are the other reasons you'd think about it? It's not going to get to attack his face this turn, no matter what I do, because he's got this taunt minion out. So silence the taunt minion and crack him for 8. That's the point of the deck. So it doesn't come up as often as you think. It's definitely something to consider, and it's one of those
nice option.
Right. In 0.1% of the games that you're going to play, it's going to be relevant, and you need to be aware of it. But it's not super frequent where you want to do that.
Right.
Let's see. Do you think bomb lobbers are better for this deck from Dragon Rider DK? For the Mech Shaman, is the time the question came in. I don't know. I tried playing Savitsa's list with the Fire Guard Destroyers, and that was really when I didn't have that great of a performance with the deck. I go back to the Bomb Lobber version, and I climb 2 ranks in an hour before I had to go, make it to my WoW raid. So I really don't know if it's right or not. It definitely performs well. It really helps clear out things like Sludge Belcher. Maybe your Flame Tongue totem then can finish it off, or I don't know, the 1/1 totem is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
That's not Flame Tongue. That's
Fire.
Searing Totem.
Searing Totem. There you go.
Yeah, so it's something that definitely is worth a discussion. I'm playing 2. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should cut 1, find room for something else. But I also think the Fireguard Destroyer excels in Savitsa's list because of Enhanso Mechano.
Right.
Enhanso Mechano. Just a really efficient, high-power body that has an off chance to pick up Whirlwind from that guy.
Right.
So, I don't know. Play around with it, though. It's definitely in the consideration for me. It's rough. It's not a mech, but...
it's a good tempo, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Helps a lot in matchups like Paladin and things like that, where they're playing kind of the efficient creature game.
Right.
All right, well, as
Officially
at the end...
half an hour, the classic half hour over.
Well, that's good, because, we had to lean on BRM that one last time. So, that puts us into our favorite segment. I think everybody's favorite segment at this point. And that is...
It gets me every time.
Stump the Blevins. Yes. I know you're all super excited. So the way this goes is I pick a card. It's got to be a playable constructed card or a very playable arena card. And I name it. And our favorite one to do as an example is John, Sludge Belcher.
Tubs feel funny.
So John not only has to know what he says when he comes into play, but he has to do a fairly accurate impersonation of it, with the exception of exceptionally female voices, because this happens. John, Novice Engineer.
I don't even remember what Novice Engineer is.
How did you know it at the time? That makes me so mad. All right, count it. Stumped. No, I'm just kidding. I do have two actual cards to do. But anyways...
I hope you like my invention.
That's
Something
true.
like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So this week we have 2 cards, and the very first one, I get to do BRM now. The very first one is Flamewaker.
Oh, I think it's
I serve the Fire Lord.
something like that.
serve the Fire Lord.
Damn it.
Was that it?
Yes. So the attack for Flamewaker.
Flame on.
Flame on. All right, well, that was the one BRM card I was going to throw at him. The other one, we've just been talking about Mr. Bomblobber.
Are you sure that we haven't already done Bomb Lobber before?
No, of course I'm not sure. I just don't think
I was
so.
gonna say I'm pretty sure we have before, because it's
Special delivery!
Special delivery!
He even does the laugh. It's really infuriating when he gets a card right and just knows it.
Bombs away!
And bombs away when he attacks.
definitely done Bomb Lobber before.
Well, it's one of my favorite cards, so I don't really know what to tell you. It's probably going to happen a third time. But, nonetheless, unfortunately, people, that brings us to the end of the show. So, John, are you playing, did you add your opponent for tomorrow for the NVIDIA Pro-Am yet?
I added him a while ago. He hasn't added me back, so...
No, so we don't know how good he is? You
Oh,
haven't been
no, probably rank 1 legend. It was probably Zalay. He got rank 1 legend earlier today.
Yeah, but isn't he going to be on the pro side of that bracket?
Maybe I am.
You should scan that list. You're not. Maybe you should scan that list, though, and see if there's anybody that we'd actually know of that might be coming up on the horizon, so we could talk about it next week.
All right, I'll take a look at it.
That'll end the regular show. As always, boys and girls, we do the after show, so come watch us on Twitch if you want to see us goof around, play bad decks, combine our barely functioning brains together into one almost fully functioning brain to play some ladder games. And we will just continue on and keep joking around. But, I don't have to donate $1 every time I swear in the after show, so that's a bonus.
That's true.
I'm getting on a run again, though, so that means we're probably just due for another epic failure.
I almost lost it on Ren Blackhand earlier.
You've literally never once let one slip. And I don't even swear that much. I'm not out there just swearing all the time in my daily life. But there's just something about me being on my computer playing video games that obviously just gets me swearing a little bit more than normal. Anyways, We will see you guys next week. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.